As I say, don't take what I'm saying set in stone. Yes, Leanne. You know, don't take what I'm saying set in stone. This is just my theory. This is how I theorise. This is how I form opinions. You don't have to believe it. I believe in most of it. I believe in what I'm seeing and what I'm saying. Might sound far-fetched and a bit crazy to some of you, but I don't know, it's like I've always had the ability to, especially when it's bad, what's coming. I've always seemed to have, I think I've been able to see well ahead in bad situations and what's coming down in them because I've been awfulising situations all my life. Does that make sense? So, awfulising, do you know what it is? Simple terms, it's like it's like making a fountain out of a molehill. You've awfulised it, you've exaggerated it, you've amplified it, you've hypothetically blew it through the roof. Do you understand? So I've got a scratch, but I'm telling everyone I've cut my arm off. Awfulised it. So I've got a phone call, bang. Blah blah, mum's had an accident. She broke her toenail while she was driving. But I've sat there for an hour and two and thought very deep and ruminated it, meaning thought about it constantly to the worst situation that could ever get to. So I've had a phone call saying blah 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 and I've sat there for an hour and managed to awfulise it to the point that I've had an image and a visualisation of the worst it could ever get. And I sort of started to live my life through that. I'd awfulise in the sense of, like, example, I'm getting a 20 here. So although I possibly wouldn't get a 20, in my mind I'd awfulise the situation that I'm getting a 20. What's the worst that can happen to me in this situation? And I'd stick with the worst. And if anything under the worst happened, I'd feel blessed, I'd feel relieved. And that's why I used to awfulise the situations I got myself into. So even today, I look at things and I look at people coming at me and I'll look at them and I'll say, okay, if this goes to where I know it can end up at its worst situation, is this kid worth? Is he going to go for it? Is he going to go to the levels I'm going to go to if this situation goes to the worst it could ever get to? He's not. The fact that I've awfulized the situation, then looked at this and assessed this and said, he, them, that is defo not going to that level. I can tap out of the situation because I'm going to that level. Do you understand what I mean? So that's me awfulizing the situation, but using it to good effect. You can use that awfulization and absolutely ruin yourself, because you could be in a relationship with a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they haven't rang you. This is unusual. If you've had a boyfriend in the past and he's been a bit of a girlfriend, he's been a bit of, and all of a sudden there you are a year later with a new partner and the phone's not getting answered, you're awfulizing that. Bang, he's driving, you'll pick the phone up. Normally he's not driving. Give him another minute, you'll pick it up. But you awfulizing, he's got a bird, he's cheating behind my back, he's probably with her now, that's why he's not answering the phone. Now you're like that, ringing. Where are you? Who are you with? That's you awfulizing bullshit in your head. That's a bad way of using awfulising. But getting why to, I can seem to identify the bad that's coming. It's because I've awfulised mad situations, and you just don't go, this is going to end up there. You're looking at it and going, wow, if this takes that step left, that right, that left, that right, this is going to end up mad. So you're assessing the awfulisation process. Alright, he's been shot in the leg. You've awfulised this whole situation. You know now, if my man goes out and shoots someone else in retaliation in his leg, and then he does that, and then he does that, you know there's a couple of murders up here. You know what's coming. You're spotting it a mile off. And I've sort of developed that skill of seeing what's coming. So you might be sitting there looking at the grooming thing and thinking, oh, forgive me, I'm awfulising it. And I've thought deep. And I'm looking at that and thinking, alright, what's the worst this can go to? And I'm prepped. Use hands. It's all going to be a big shock. But because I've awfulised the situation, I'm not acting on that awful situation. Sometimes I'm slipping, but I'm not acting on it. Do you understand? I'm just awfulising these situations to the worst it could get to, and sort of suffering off the awfulisation because it's getting me angry because I know what's coming. And I'm there in two minds now. Well, shall I just bring it forward because I can see what's coming, or should we just sit here and wait for it to land on us? It's coming. That's what I believe, because I've looked years down the line in this awfulisation process, if you like. It's weird what I'm trying to tell you, but it's a valid thing that I do. I firmly believe in awfulising situations to a certain level of control. If you start to awfulise everything in your life, it's not the way forward. I've done it. I know what it is. You know, your bird doesn't turn up on a visit, she's cheating, when in reality she's had a puncher on the motorway. This is awfulising little madness situations, but if you start awfulising a little madness, you start awfulising the big things. When you've been through that process of awfulising, rumination, all these psychological ways of thinking, when you've been through a few of the processes and mastered them, you can then use, you know, like, so ruminating in a bad thing is bad for you. If you ruminate about a bad subject, you're going to start making mad topics. But if you ruminate about a goal, if you ruminate about an achievement that you want to achieve, and you constantly ruminate and think and believe that you're going to, then rumination's good. It's the same with awfulising. You know, you can awfulise a cut on your wrist and you will firmly believe that you're going to die off it. Because you've awfulised. It's infected. I've got an infection going up my arm. It's in my back. I'm going to die. This is you just awfulising. And it's bad. But if you've been through it enough, you know, when you're awfulising off that little cut, you're thinking, that cut could be massive in a year. I need stitches. But it's going to heal. It's definitely going to heal. Without stitches, it's still going to heal. The only reason you get stitches is to make the scar look prettier. So I look at, so I've been in situations that are awful as well. You know, if you look at the situation with Craig Barker, I know I keep on using it, but that's a valid situation to use. You know, I've been in a situation where someone's had his jaw wobbles on him. It's been a fisticuffs. It's gone from this, bang. People dead. Now I can sit here and watch these situations that are arising around the city and go, right, if this doesn't take this left turn here, that situation's going to go bang, 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 bang. Dead. I can see it coming 2 years down the line before the people that are in the situation are even recognising what's coming to them. You know why? Because at the same time, a lot of the kids don't know me. A lot of the youth don't know me, so they don't know my situation. So they can't look at my story or the dynamics of it and see, well, I'm gone. I started there with a fisticuffs and ended up here, there, bang. And they're not looking at it and being able to recognise situations that they're getting themselves in. I'm going, hang on. This has just gone from a fisticuffs last week to me ma's house getting shot. How aren't you recognising this as a thing that's going to go bum, 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 dead, lights off? So it's good to awfulise some of the shit you're in and realise, you know, if you're able to awfulise that situation, the only reason why you're able to awfulise that in your mind is because it can go there. It can go there. If you're able to awfulise a situation, it can go there. The way you think of it, it can get there. Why? Because you're thinking of the worst of the situation, you've assessed it. What's the worst it can get to? That's why you're awfulising. Take it on board, mate, because if you're awfulising and the end of that situation is a couple of people shot dead, you should want to instantly prevent that situation from getting to where it could go, which is a couple of people shot dead, isn't it? The worst scenario, it's the same thing, isn't it, Leon? It's all the same thing. The worst scenario, the worst outcome, the consequences of the full situation. And it mightn't happen overnight as well, you know, people. It can happen over 2 or 3 year period. And that's why it's hard to recognise. You know, but you might have a fight with a kid in 2001. And that energy and that lingering still there, isn't it? It's not gone away. You know, these are the ones that are simmering for years before they just go BAM! And you get people, where did that come from? Weren't expecting that, wasn't you? It's been going on for years. Just because it hasn't been popping off on the streets and there's been violent scenes everywhere doesn't mean that bad feeling there hasn't existed. When you're going through your life, you can create enemies or you can't. And I don't mean people that dislike you, they're not enemies. Enemies are the people that are trying to kill you. If you've got people that aren't trying to kill you, you've got no enemies, mate. Ben saying squash beef. If you weren't being taught to fight as a way of dealing with beef, you'd be able to squash beef. But because you're being taught to fight as a way of dealing with beef, you're never going to squash it. When we was growing up, we was being taught to talk about this shit before anything. Chat about this shit before it gets to fisticuffs. If it leaves fisticuffs, it goes violence. If it leaves conversation, it gets fisticuffed. If it leaves fisticuff, it gets violence. Do you understand what I'm saying? When we was growing up, it was fisticuffs after the talking. So it was like a buffering zone. So we'd have the talk. Okay, the talk was still agitated and high rated. Get in that ring there and deal with it. Bam, 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 bam. Straighten there. And shook at the end of it. Latest. These days, that buffering point is the fisticuffs. There's no talking. It's just let's have a fight then. And they have the fight and it's not forgot about. You haven't got gentlemen these days. You haven't got warriors that can take a loss. You've got bad sports all over the place. So you can have straighteners all over the gaff, but I'm guaranteeing you, 6 months down the line, they're arguing again, and they want that straightener again. Depending on what theatre they're in, whether they're in the legit world or the unlegit world, depends on how that theatre plays out. If they're in that unlegal world, you know, and the guns are getting pulled into play, well, there you go, it's what you're getting. They've had the straightener, it never solved nothing, now they're shooting each other a year later, cutting each other up. So the point I'm making is all these dickheads get in the ring, fight it out, they're doing it for clickbaiting, they're doing it for subscriptions, hours watched. It's not solving nothing. The only thing that solves shit is speaking to each other. Physical aggression, physical violence never solves nothing, ever. Look at what you witness around the world right now on a massive scale. Look at all these so-called proxy wars or wars around the world, all these conflicts. How are they resolved? Was they resolved by the murders of them kids? Was they resolved by the thousands of children and women in Palestine brutally murdered? Was it resolved due to that? It wasn't resolved due to that. It was resolved through talking. That ceasefire was a result of talking. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? For some mad up reason, you're all encouraging your kids to skip the talking process and just go into aggressive mode, fight mode. And like I've just said, it doesn't do nothing. If that kid's 15 and that kid's 15 and they're having a straightener because they've got issues and one of them loses, trust me, the way society is today, the way men are bringing their kids up, there's bad sports all over the gaff, and you can have that straightener, but that one that got beat is going to be hating for years until he gets his revenge. That's just the way it is. If he doesn't get the revenge directly, he'll be sitting in the background waiting for someone to harm you so he can just relish in your pain and your trauma and your loss. Them straighteners don't do nothing these days. Nothing. You need to be getting back to encouraging your kids to speak, understand, negotiate, calm the fears. Instead of just turning up like he's a madman, I'm going to settle this today, because you're not. It doesn't get settled in that way, ever. Might have 20 years ago, you could have a straightener that'd shake hands and that's it. The whole dynamics will disappear. These days, whoever wins going round the corner, getting on the phone, well, he didn't there, don't man. This kid's getting trolled, can't save face. And it's all about saving face and reputation with the kids, isn't it? So when you've got real men out there in the fighting world saying you should always try to talk before you go to the physical process of this, you know, you should be avoiding the aggression towards each other. You should be avoiding inflicting pain on one another. You can calm this down with words, calm it down with words. Once it gets to a fatality, even a leg shot, broken jaw, you can negotiate this shit. You can work through it with word of mouth and live side by side for years and years later. You can't go out and kill someone and think you're going to forget about that shit in a year or two. It doesn't work like that. Once there's a fatality, once there's been a fatality in these, that's it. That's generational wars. You've got kids growing up looking revenge for their uncle who used to take them out on the motorbikes, for the dad that used to have them fishing every night with them. You know, this is the long-term negative consequences of your actions within our communities upon our children and their future. They'll just continue to. They're not trying to stop you from going to prison. They'll just build more places. You know, your kid goes into jail for at 16 and he does a little 2 years in there. That's like £250,000. £250,000 on your kid. That's just a prison. 10 kids going in, couple of mil. There's 90,000 people in that system. Billions and billions of pounds. Them corporations, they love building prisons because it's big money. Just encourage the kids, right? If you're a gangbanger, if you're a criminal, you've done a little bit of jail and you fall life up, and you might be that far gone, you don't even believe you've had a shit life because you've got a shit car outside or something. If you're a real kid and you've been to prison for this bullshit, you should be encouraging every last young lad that you come into contact with to swerve that life. None of my business, the kids will think I'm a fed. What they think, they'll remember. The only person that was telling me to swerve this shit out of everyone when I was a kid was that fella. They'll remember it. Guaranteed, mates. Honest. Defo. Every young lad that you encourage to not their lives up, when they their lives up, they're going to remember you out of everyone. And even if they listen to you when you're saying don't get your life up, if they listen to you years later when they never their life up, when they've hit where they wanted to hit, they will think of you as a big moment in their life that set them on that path to got them where they are. It works in beautiful ways, mate. Honest, it works. You can channel your energy however you want it. It's coming back to you and yours. It's coming back to you and yours, mates. It might take years to get back to yours. You might have gone through, but it's going to land on the lap of your kids. It's going to land on your family tree. Everything you're doing now is going to find its way back to you. If you're not here to receive it, yours will receive it. Just make it good, make it blessed, make the return nice. Don't make it painful, don't make it traumatic. If you're leading that life and you're putting people in a mess, you're destroying their lives, you're feeding their addictions and shit like this, all that's coming back to you. And if it doesn't land on you, if you don't develop them addictions, if you don't develop them traumatic traits, it's landing on yours. Trust me, it's landing on yours, mates. MC Dirty Money, hope you well, lad. I'm sound. W73. You've all got purpose, mate. You've all got purpose. And what you put out is definitely coming back to you. Doesn't matter what it is. I can sit here and chat major shit, but if I'm not believing it, what I'm putting out is going to come back major shit. It won't come back the thing I'm portraying to be. If I'm sitting here portraying to be a man of Christ, but really I don't believe that I'm being a man of Christ, that shite's coming back. If I'm sitting here as a man of Christ, firmly believing that I'm a man of Christ, and I'm setting this vibe and pushing this frequency out, it's all coming back. Might take its time, depending on how many people it's going to affect. You know, it's got to get through before it comes back. And you've got to think about my energy pool now. So, for example, just put this little image in your mind. Say I'm on this, say I'm in a pool, right? I'm in this corner of this pool, and I'm shouting, choose a life, not a knife. I've just set a ripple off in this pool from my corner. That's a ripple going through the water. And then they haven't said nothing for ages, so that ripple's died down. And now it's flat again. And I went, choose a life, not a knife. And it's went again, that ripple. And I've been doing that for years, sending that one ripple out, covering the whole pool. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, as the years are going by, I'm starting to shout. Instead of once every so often, I'm going, choose a life, not a knife. 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 You're getting ripple after ripple after ripple after ripple in this pool now. Constant ripples. Like a frequency. And that's pushing me vibe out. That's pushing the energy of choose a life, not a knife out. So here I am 10 years later. And that pool is massive now. And the ripple effects are coming on a regular, consistent basis now. Eventually, it's going to be too difficult to ignore.